on this game that you weren't familiar with? Yes.
I didn't know what a potlatch was. I never.
Potlatch.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what it is?
Yes.
It's an opulent ceremony feast where possessions are given away or destroyed to display wealth and enhance prestige. Northern Native Americans and Northwest Native Americans have it. So they're saying they thought it was a different way of saying pot. They thought I had a typo. Was there anything else that was kind of unfamiliar?
I wasn't sure about Juneteenth.
So Juneteenth. It's also called Freedom Day. Emancipation was January 1, 1863, except for in Texas, where they held on for additional years. And it wasn't until June 19th, 1865, that the last of the slaves were actually set free. So Texas, yeah.
So Juneteenth.
So Juneteenth is the true Freedom Day for African Americans, because that's when the last of us were actually, well, I wouldn't say we were totally set free, but our chains were dropped.
And it's really fun to be on the freeway in Atlanta in the 1990s for Juneteenth. You don't go anywhere. It's really fun.
So microaggression is an insult that is usually
misunderstood. I would have asked anybody that.
is usually couched in a question, a joke. Someone said he used to say to his friends on the court, "That's so gay." That's a microaggression because it's saying that all gay people are not good basketball players. It started as just race, and now it's being used to identify those small insults that happen to people of color. Anybody who's in the less, when you're a member of the less privilege, you tend to receive them.
Can I ask a Braves-based question?
Yes.
So if, and I'm taking this to hypothetical, but say I was going across in an order and the next person I ask the next question, is a microaggression defined by only the receiver, or does it I guess, does it figure in intent, or, I know it's a complicated question.
Thank you. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Intent doesn't matter.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So if I inadvertently offend somebody, whether I intended to or not, I've done it. So my head of school always uses, if I step on Linnell's foot, it's unintentional, but for my response to be, it shouldn't hurt so much. That's not helpful, and I'm not owning my space the way she so beautifully did. She said it was not my intention. I misunderstood the game. She explained herself, but she also owned that she did it. It doesn't, so yeah, intent doesn't matter.
I guess I knew that in other situations. I knew that, like, if you're unaware of your, but I guess in a sense that is like, if I walk up to someone, I need to be aware of what question I'm asking. I guess that makes it why there's a piece that's missing.
And it also, it's relational as well.
Right.
I can ask Linnell certain things that
Right.
will not be offensive to her because
Right.
I know her to a certain extent.
Exactly.
But if I were to ask somebody else those same questions, it may be a microaggression to them if we're in conversation.
Just a quick clarification, did you want us to, because I was doing the same thing of going up and asking people, just picking one and asking. Were we in the intention of how we do this?
I didn't give direction.
Did you intend us to do
I
one way or
intended
the
for
other?
you to figure it out on
Thank
your
you.
own. Yeah.
The missing piece for me is, because I know you can't go to intent, but sometimes it's from a different place. For example, the illustration in my school was, you're in a long line and the checker says to you, where are you from, something like that. And she goes, oh, Long Beach. And she goes, well, where are you originally from? And the person second in line behind her says, I bet you get that question all the time. I'm sorry you're asked it. Because this person was of Asian descent. And she said, yes, I am. And then when the second person moved to the front, and she said, the clerk said, my boss says I have to chit chat, and I'm not a good chit chatter. And this is a safety zone for me, and I'm gonna have to really think about it. So sometimes you have to go that extra step because it ruined the checker's day. She felt terrible, and she's not a good chit chatter, you know? I mean, and it could be, what's your favorite sport? Oh, you know, you're not able-bodied. I mean, it's an interesting dialogue.
But I would say that we have to be very cautious to protect the assaulter.
If she.
And we have to be very careful
Well,
about
of
that
course.
because
I
if
understand
I
that.
offend you, if I say something to you, I'm gonna keep doing it, and you're gonna keep being offended, right? The only way that I can stop is if you say, Taninia, that's not cool. You have offended me. And I should be able to take it, us in this room especially, because we have committed to this work. And so it still gets uncomfortable, like he mentioned, it's uncomfortable, and you're like, my head of school walked into my office the other day, and he said, I don't want to learn any new lessons. And I feel that way sometimes too. I was like, darn it, I did it again. I stuck my whole foot in my mouth. And, but that's part of the work. And if we're in this work, we're also allies. And so without, you know, overstepping the person, we also then have committed to stand up for people and to say something. And the only way we're gonna stop it is by saying something. When I first learned about microaggressions, I was the microaggressions police. I was like, that was a microaggression. Every commercial has microaggression in it. Comedy should not be done because it's all microaggression. No, you can't do that. And we are not anti-racists. We are not anti-biased folks if we don't say something. Right? If we always choose to not say something. Because that clerk is going to offend the next person by asking the same question.
Not intentionally, but that's not, but now that she's been corrected and she had that dialogue, I'm just such a terrible chit chatter. And, you know, so the question is, what would be appropriate? How would you help her? She can't talk about able-bodied, she can't talk about origin, she can't talk about religion.
Weather.
Family. You can't talk about children.
What's the
but-
vegetable that's
Yeah.
Just whatever she's buying, like, oh, I love these too. You know?
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
I think there's a whole lot to talk about
I
other
like
than my
to
blackness.
hear
I
that.
mean, I'm just saying, if you gotta ask me where I'm from, you know, I think there's a lot of other opening questions. I'm pretty sure you could Google great opening hello questions to start a
But
conversation.
I think the important thing is both sides of it. I think the person who felt the microaggression, she could have stopped it too, rather than the person second in line. And I thought it was a genuine.
Okay, so I'm gonna be very clear again. It is not my responsibility to make white people anti-racists. White people have to do the work themselves, right? So if somebody says,
I don't know what her race was.
I'm using racism as it. Well, it is.
I
What
don't
she
know
did was
that the
racial.
comment was racial, but it was just a misjudgment for sure.
No, it was racist. I'm gonna be very honest. If I ask somebody that doesn't look, what does an American look like? Describe an American to me. You're not going to because
No.
you know where this is gonna go.
No.
But no.
No.
So an American is
Mother-
white.
Oh, see, I wouldn't go there.
An American is white. No, because white people don't get asked that question.
Right.
If white people don't get asked that question, their privilege is invisible to them. They think that they have the right. I'm an American. I look like I'm an American. Therefore, I'm going to question whether or not you're American. That's what that is. It is steeped in microaggressions is a kind way of saying a racist comment. And so we don't use racist because nobody wants to be called racist, right? It's a racist comment, it's a sexist comment, it's a whatever the ism is, right? So it is steeped in an invisible racism that we all experience and that we all push forward.